purpose of today's Felixstowe Matters, and that's actually for the interviewer to interview the interviewer. So, welcome, Eric.
Good, it's very nice to be here.
And effectively, this really is your life.
Well, this is what you'd like to say.
Well, I think so. And what I find amazing is a man as young as you
now you are joking.
No, well, I'm not. I mean, you're a contemporary of our monarch, the Queen.
Absolutely. And I've got sons your age.
Have you really?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing? Can we kick off with what year you were born?
I was born in 1926, which makes me 87, and I was 87 last Sunday.
Okay, so you were actually born in January,
January 1926. Yes.
Which makes you whatever it makes you.
87.
No. What star sign is that?
A Capricorn.
Oh, are you? And I'm sure they've got some exciting features and character traits.
Oh, it's
the
the old goat.
Well, that explains a lot then, Eric. We won't pursue that too far. You were born in the UK?
Yes, I was born in London, Finsbury Park.
Oh, were you?
Yes,
right.
My parents were very interesting because they were married by proxy. Now, have you ever heard of being married by proxy?
Yeah, I nearly got married by proxy.
Did you?
Because I was in Abu Dhabi at the time we did ours, and that was an option. I could have stayed there, and the ceremony could have been conducted in Leicester by proxy.
In those days, in the early 20s, a woman could not travel by herself, believe it or not.
Right.
She either had to be chaperoned or go with her husband.
I can believe,
yes. If she wasn't married.
Right.
The only way she could travel by herself is if she was married.
Right.
So, of course, my mother was in Malta.
Was she? Right.
And my father was in England.
So the marriage took place in Malta, did it?
No, the marriage took place. My mother was in Malta.
Right.
My father was in London.
Yes.
And they got married by proxy at the same time in both places. So therefore my mother was then married and was able to travel by herself over to London.
Oh, I see.
So this is marriage by proxy. But people today, I should say 95% of people today don't know what that means, and they don't realise that two people can be married without being together.
Yes, I mean our embassies can provide that service in that situation.
Yes.
You know, because I think we have one in Abu Dhabi. But that aside, so you were born yourself in 1926. What siblings did you have?
I've got one sister, an older sister, who now is 90. And she's still going strong, I might say.
Love it. And why not? So she really, one would assume, was your, guardian, director,
well,
took care of you?
She was my sister.
Yes, I know. You see, but I've got two, and they do tend to take a hand a bit, if you're younger.
Oh, I see, yes.
I don't know what happened in your relationship.
I don't know, because I can't remember.
Oh, right.
Yes, that's the easiest way.
But she was only 3 years older than you?
3 years older than me.
Right, so it's pretty contemporary, isn't it, at that time? And your mum came from Malta, your dad was already in London, so you lived in Finsbury Park from that point on, that's where you were born.
Well, you see, my father was with the Royal Navy for 20 years.
Was he? Right.
And it's a very old family, the Foti side, that comes from Sicily.
Right.
The St. John side, my mother's side, is a very old English family.
Oh, right.
They came over with William the Conqueror.
Right.
He was in charge of the battering rams. A man called Oliver St. John.
Right.
We've still got the name used in the family. I've got a grandson named Oliver, and it's always children in the St. John family are named Oliver.
Isn't that amazing?
So he came over from
Normandy
with William the Conqueror. They helped to conquer Wales, and he was given Fonmont Castle in Wales as a reward for the work he did.
Do you think this might mean we may lose our Welsh viewer?
Oh, we might do.
We might. Sorry about that, Welsh viewer, but these things happen in loving war, don't they? Yeah. So you've got quite a lot of military background and within the family, obviously. But from battering rams through to whatever.
In those days, the Navy was quite different from the way it is now.
Yes.
Every ship had its own orchestra.
Right.
And my father, who was a professor of music, ran the orchestra on the ship.
Right.
And that was his full-time job.
Right.
Doing that.
Mind you, they spent a lot of time flying the flag, didn't they, around the empire?
Oh,
in that period. Yeah. So they were there to be seen, not to cow other folk, but to show that we did have a presence and we were about. And had we continued that at the Falklands, we probably wouldn't have had the Falklands. But we won't go there. You were born. What I wanted to do.
Let me carry on there. You were interesting. It took my mind of what I was about to say. So you went off at the tangent.
I think this interview might run him round, but hopefully the viewer will stay.
But you see, my father, who had been 20 years with the, or 22 years with the British Navy, he got a naval pension, married my mother, who was 15 years younger than he was, and came over to London. As a professor of music, he got a job at the Trocadero.
Oh, now, yes.
You may. It is now the Corner House in Piccadilly.
Oh, is it?
But the building is still the same, and he had the orchestra there, so he got himself a very good job before he married my mother. He wasn't allowed to marry my mother unless he had a good job.
That tended to be the way of it, didn't it?
Oh, it did. People don't realise how things operated in those days.
And I think in military circles they disapproved mightily if you tried to get married below 25 or even later. It was a very structured society, rather different to now.
Yes.
But you arrived, newborn in 1926.
That's right.
Which actually wasn't the best of time to be arriving. That was the part of the start of the crash. I think we had the general strike.
Yes, there was a general strike in 1926.
Beaufort, I think, had just been elected the Prime Minister. Not that you would have been voting for him because you're only 0, so you wouldn't have been eligible. So you had your first 5 years, and then one would assume you went to primary school.
Yes.
Somewhere in and around Finsbury Park, I suppose.
Yes.
So where did you go to primary school?
I went to an elementary school in Tooting.
Did you?
Now, Tooting in those days used to be virtually a slum.
Yes.
And my father commuted part of his British naval pension and bought a house in Tooting Beck.
Oh yes, I know Tooting Beck.
And that house today, he paid £1,000 for it.
Oh.
Today it's valued at £1.5 million.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
So it just shows you how inflation has gone.
Yeah,
but you don't realise what poverty is until you go back to the 20s, if you can remember those 20s and 30s. Poverty was a dreadful thing.
Yes.
To make ends meet, he gave up the job at the Trocadero and he started teaching music,
Oh, right.
And he established this college of music in the house we were living in that he'd bought.
Oh, right.
But,
so a dual purpose.
But, you see, to make ends meet, he had to have a tenant on the top floor, a tenant in the middle floor. There was a sort of, how should I say, a bit in between as well. We had a tenant in there, and we had 4 of us, my father, mother and the 2 children, all living in one room to make ends meet. Today, people wouldn't even consider it, but that was considered quite normal. I hate to say it, Eric,
I think it's already probably happening.
Well, it might do.
I think it is.
In those days, you could walk down the street and you'd see children with bare feet.
Yes, I know.
Patched clothing, and it was really dreadful.
Actually, when you look,
lack of money.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't long ago.
And it's and I didn't experience that, but I think what I found, because I lived in a village, so a village it was pretty poor.
Yeah.
And everybody didn't have whatever it may be, so nobody actually felt poor as such. So shoes and things were passed all the way through the families, and everything got worn out, didn't it? Today now you see things that are not even partially worn being dumped. I find that quite distressing. Let us get back to you.
Yeah.
The primary school or elementary school would have taken you from 5 to what age?
At 11 I won a scholarship to go to Clapham College. But it's just interesting talking about that, because I remember when I went to Clapham College, because we were, how should I say, we didn't have any money.
Yes, quite.
There were the boys who were, they'd have lunches which were paid for, and they'd go into the dining room and have their paid lunches.
At the elementary.
We poverty-stricken ones.
Either went home with sandwiches?
No, we took sandwiches with us, and do you know where we used to have to eat them?
Not the toilets.
In the bike shed. So we all sat in the bike shed happily eating our sandwiches while the well-off ones had their meal inside. And we took it all for granted.
Yes,
we didn't worry about it. We were happy with it.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how things and times have changed now.
Yes. I mean, now that would be, at least they'd let you go into a classroom.
Well,
which is what happened in my school. Yeah. I mean, those of us had school lunches. Some chose to bring sandwiches, and I used to live, you know. But yes, things have changed even in the sort of the difference between us of 20 years or so. It's quite an amazing change around that took place. So you won a scholarship. And that was who funded the scholarship? Central government or
well, you know, that's an interesting point. I don't know who funded it, but there were scholarships and there were free places.
Yes.
And you could get either one or the other.
Right.
And,
so which scholarship did you win to which school?
Well, I just got this one to Clapham College. I don't recall.
So it was Clapham College.
Yes, I went to Clapham College, and this was the Brothers. It was run by Brothers.
So it was a Roman Catholic institute.
Roman Catholic college.
So it could have been the diocese who actually funded.
It could have been. Who knows?
You know, the scholarships.
And you didn't go into things like that in those
No, you didn't.
days.
You just thought, I've got a scholarship, I'm off.
That's right.
I'm off.
Yes.
So you spent how long there? So you went there at the quaking age of 11.
Yes, and I was there probably a couple of years, I can't remember now. But then, of course, the war broke out.
Oh, right.
And, of course, then we were evacuated.
So when you were 13...
When I was 13...
The war was declared. When we declared war on Germany.
You've done the calculation.
I have, yeah.
I was 13.
So you were 13.
I was evacuated to Felixstowe in Sussex.
Near East Grinstead.
Yes. And once again, you know... the fact that we didn't have any money didn't worry us at all, and I mean, how times change. I used to.
Can I just take you back just a little bit? You would have been. You went by train, I take it, from wherever to East Grinstead.
To East Grinstead,
and then you would have been a part of a selection process.
Yes.
My grandmother tells me about this when children were evacuated from Bristol down to Devon.
Yes.
Because she was a part of those who provided homes to evacuees.
Yes.
Now, you and your sister were both evacuated?
Yes, but we weren't evacuated together.
Were you not?
No, in those days they used to split families up, they didn't worry about it. There was
so did you have a collar? Did you have a label on your collar? Or?
I can't remember now.
No.
I know we had our gas masks over our shoulders.
In the box.
And we arrived in a group at Felixstowe in the village hall.
Right.
And the various people in the village came, they selected who they wanted.
I know.
And took them back with them, and I was one of the last ones to be selected.
Were you really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
so it was a farmer, was it, who selected?
No. I was selected by a very nice woman, and her husband had a little baby child.
Oh, right.
And but of course I didn't have any money. I didn't have any pocket money.
No.
And I had to make some money. So basically, I first of all bought a 10-shilling bike. No, a shilling bike. I bought a bike for a shilling.
Did you really?
Which is the equivalent of 10p.
Yes.
So it just shows you the difference in the value of money. So
actually,
I had
it's 5p.
Is it 5p? Yes, it is, I suppose. Yeah. I had transport.
Yes, absolutely.
Key. I was able then to examine the bike, take it to pieces, and what have you. So I developed bicycle skills.
Right.
So I set up a bicycle repair little business. Making money repairing other people's bikes.
Lovely.
Although I taught it to myself, if you know what I mean. I also, right near where I was evacuated to the place, there was a farm.
Right.
And of course this was run by an old farmer who only had one hand. So he was exempt from being called up.
Well, yeah.
All his farm labourers had been called up.
So was that a first war injury?
I don't know. I don't know how he lost his hand.
But it used to happen quite often.
Well, it did. But there he was. He'd lost all his labourers. There was a young lad, teenager, turned up. So he taught me to milk.
Oh, right.
And so I used to hand milk a herd of 40 cows before I went to school.
Really?
And you see, because he only had one hand, he had difficulty in milking.
Well, he would, because it's that process.
That's right. We didn't have.
Well, you can demonstrate, can't you?
Oh, I've still got the action.
Yeah, and a wonderful action too.
And I can still milk a cow.
Yes.
And of course, people who machine milk, they can strip out a cow, and but they couldn't do a morning's milking. They wouldn't know how to.
Actually, that's a lot, because one of my uncles was a herdsman.
And not only that, I used to milk the, before I went to school and when I came back from school.
Yes.
And another local farmer, because his person had been called up on his day off, he used to give me sixpence to go and milk his herd.
Really?
And sixpence was equivalent to
serious money.
2.5p, yes.
Yeah, serious money then, though, wasn't it? I mean, when I was a child, sixpence would have got you sort of at least 10 cigarettes, if not 20.
But I wouldn't have missed it for the world, because obviously I learnt all sorts of skills. I used to plough with 2 horses, furrow
So you still had some horses left?
Oh, the horses! I used to look after the horses.
Because they lost a lot of horses.
They had a lovely black horse there.
Did they?
Which farmer let me ride it,
right.
And I used to ride round everywhere.
Oh, right.
I hurt my leg one day, and I got on this, I used to call her Black Beauty,
right.
Without a saddle, bareback I used to ride her, and I rode up to the village to the doctor, hitched it up outside the doctor's, and I always remember when I went in to see the doctor, and he said, well, how did you get here if you've got such a bad leg like that? I said, on the horse. He said, on the horse? And he said, where is it? I said, outside, and through the window he saw he was surprised even. But
you obviously recovered because you got no ill effects.
No.
So you spent quite a while there then, did you? Being an evacuee?
Well, I can't remember now, a couple of years, I think. But then I decided I wanted to go in for the Roman Catholic priesthood.
Oh, did you?
The Bishop of whoever it was, Westminster, wherever it was, came down to give, one of his visits.
Right.
He saw me
at
this church, and I told him I wanted, because the brothers had obviously told him that I wanted to...
Sorry, we missed a step there. What schooling did you get whilst you were an evacuee? Where did you go?
I used to go from Forest Row to East Grinstead, because what they did, they would put one school with another school of the same grade.
Right.
So the Clapham College was put with this, I suppose, a grammar school in East Grinstead.
So that explained where you were evacuated in. That was a part
not
of the
necessarily.
process.
I don't know. It must be part of the process. But I used to, just as how things have changed. I used to cycle from Forest Row to East Grinstead to school, and that must be, I don't know how much it was, 9-10 miles there, 9 or 10 miles back.
Absolutely.
And it's a tremendously steep hill going there, and I used to hope there was a lorry going by, and I'd grab the back of the lorry, and the lorry would pull me up the hill.
We used to do that with the bus. Mind you, I come from Devon, so don't talk to me about it.
I see, yes.
But going onwards, I think what we'll do, Eric, is we'll continue this, and we'll leave the production crew to decide when they chop it, but we'll just carry on, because we've got to a point. We need to get you to Burma. That's what we need to do in this part of the This Is Your Life, I think.
Yes, but so, don't you want to talk about the seminary?
Yes. I'm saying we need to get to a convenient cut-off point, and then we can run it on thereafter. Yes. But we need to go from childhood to adulthood, don't we? So here you are.
The seminary is quite an interesting...
It is. So here you were, down in the delights of Sussex, which is a very nice county.
Right,
it's a very pretty landscape, etc. East Grinstead is a very nice place.
Very nice place.
So there you were, cycling, doing bikes, milking cows, riding horses, generally having a wonderful rural Italy, and you had bombers above and dogfights, because that was... Mind you, in 44, I suppose that had backed off.
Oh, dear. When I was there, the bombing of London was going full blast.
Yes.
I was called up in 44. That was 18.
Sorry, my addition's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
And I used to cycle from Forest Row to London with the air raids on. I remember one day the air raids were so bad I had to take the bike off the road and go and sleep in one of these drainage pipes.
Oh, yes.
And
Culvert.
I used to go up to cycle to London with the bombs being dropped. You'd hear the planes going over, the guns firing, the balloons up against it. You'd arrive in London, you'd see rows of rubble where houses went, and I went right through the whole gambit from just the bombs. Then there was the doodlebugs, and then what was something two? V2s,
which was even more frightening.
No, the V2s. You see what it was with the doodlebugs?
Because they cut out, didn't they?
They cut out. And you used to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if you heard the explosion, you knew you weren't going to get hit.
Oh, right.
But with the V2s, you just had a big bang, and you were either blown up or you weren't.
So you had nothing. You didn't.
You didn't get any warning.
Probably the better.
Well, it was interesting. Let's put it that way.
Well, and yes, quite a very variety. So at a point at East Grinstead, you decided that the priesthood may be for you.
That's right, yes.
So therefore, then you applied for, I take it, or you're accepted for a seminary?
I must have told the brothers of the
right.
And
so it was a Roman Catholic school you were going to in East Grinstead?
Well, it was run. Clun College was run by the brothers, the Zavarian brothers,
right?
And of course they ran it down in East Grinstead just the same way. It was attached to this other school.
They also detached then, did they? Did the school?
The whole school went.
Right.
So Clun College was run as a distinct entity, as distinct from the college they were attached to. In other words, they just squeezed up the classrooms and used it for two colleges.
Yeah.
There must have been a lot of organisation. It was very well done.
But I think that's what people did. I'm aware that they'll probably phase out, but I think we'll carry on.
No, I don't want to at this moment. I've had a sufficiency.
But we need to get you applied for and accepted for the priesthood.
And we'll go on from there.
What we will do, viewer, is we'll return to this fascinating life story. It strikes me we could end up with a 2-hour special here, minimum, because we've got more time to look, and we leave Eric surrounded by muck and bullets and bombs and whatever, about to go off and start in the seminary. Is that right?
That's absolutely right.
Thank you very much for looking in on us today.